2020 is Scotland's Year of Coasts and Waters. To mark this occasion, this presentation looks at just some of the records that archives hold relating to East Lothian's rich coastal heritage. The coast around Dunbar has had its fair share of shipwrecks and accidents. Unsurprisingly for a town relying on fishing and sea trade, they were a common occurrence. The lifeboat in Dunbar has more than 200 years of history. Here's the man we can thank for Dunbar's first lifeboat, George Miller. Driven by his experiences growing up in Dunbar and spurred on particularly by the loss of life during a shipwreck in 1807, Miller mounted a campaign to fund a lifeboat for the town. A local printer and bookseller, George Miller used his skills and contacts to drum up support for the lifeboat. In the archive, we have the printed list of subscribers to the lifeboat, one of the last surviving copies. Many of the great and good of the county gave to the appeal, as well as ordinary citizens and local organisations. At the end of the year, they had raised the required £366 and 14 shillings. After the purchase of the boat and equipment and the building of a suitable boathouse, the lifeboat was declared fit for service on the 14th of October 1808. Not a moment too soon either, as it was called into action the very next day. A full record of the activities of that first lifeboat does not survive, and we can only take information from secondary sources such as local accounts and newspapers. Unfortunately, in the years that followed, the lifeboat service suffered from mismanagement and lack of financial support. The boat became unfit for service and was sold in 1821. Years went by without a station, and eventually the people of Dunbar petitioned the RNLI to station that boat at Dunbar, and in 1864 the RNLI Wallace was paraded through the streets. The archive holds a number of images of the lifeboats across the years. Here we can see the Wallace being paraded through the streets, the William Arthur Millward, the George and Sarah Strachan, and the Margaret. The RNLI continue to serve Dunbar to this day. This next item is a handwritten list of ships wrecked at Dunbar between 1810 and 1821. 22 ships appear on the list. The most significant of these in terms of both cargo and prestige are the two at the top of the list, the Pallas and the Nymph. The Pallas was a 32-gun Navy frigate. On the evening of the 18th of December, the captain confused a light at Broxmouth lime kilns for the Isle of May, and the ship ran aground on rocks near Broxmouth Park. Dunbar lifeboat captained by Mr. Lang launched a rescue as soon as possible in the morning. After 3 trips to the wreck, including one where the lifeboat capsized, 46 men were rescued. Sadly, 11 lost their lives. The second ship, the Nymph, was a French ship commissioned in 1777 and captured by the British in 1780. She had seen service in the American and French Revolutionary Wars. You can see her here on the right in a painting by Nicholas Pocock engaged in battle. Like the Pallas, she too was confused by the light from the lime kilns and ran aground. Her crew were luckier than that of the Pallas though, as she was wrecked closer to land and the men were able to use the ship's masts to get to safety. A few years ago, a large number of archive documents were recovered from a skip in Musselburgh. These were found to be most of the long-lost borough records of the town, and this roll of ships was amongst the haul. The volume records boats arriving at Fisher Row Harbour from 1635 to 1649. Each entry gives the name of the boat, the name of the skipper, where the boat came from, and the cargo. Most of the cargo arriving was wood, though it's hard to recognise this immediately. Cargo is recorded as Dalis, Spacus, Stingus, and Skewis. I'm probably murdering that pronunciation, so apologies, but these were all terms used for wood in the volume. A transcription of the volume is available in the archives. Although transcribing the volume did pose some challenges, not only in the archaic terms used for wood, but also in terms of places and names of people. No such thing as standardised spelling, and even within the volume, the same name or place is spelled several ways. This entry here is one of the more straightforward. It reads, John Coultry, skipper in Largo and owner of the ship called the Elspeth of Largo, entered his said ship in the harbour of Fisher Row, arrived from Norway, landed with 400 dailies, 400 trees, 1,000 stingis, and 100 skewis. Boats most commonly arrive from across Scotland and Norway. The archives also hold more modern records of the harbour at Fisher Row, covering the period between 1840 and 1904. The Shipwreck Mariners Society was a nationwide friendly organisation created to offer aid to seamen and their families. Local branches were set up across the UK, and the archives hold the records for the North Berwick branch. Thomas Woodrow, a former coastguard at the town, was the agent. Local mariners, fishermen and sailors contributed to the society, and we have one of the early subscription books. Subscriptions paid for a funeral or for a pension for widows and orphans once a sailor died. They could offer financial help in times of hardship or pay for board and travel home for seamen who found themselves shipwrecked in the area. Amongst the papers are the receipt books for payments made to those in need, and this one here recounts the circumstances of the wreck which left 4 sailors stranded in need of help in March 1890. It reads, The vessel left Bremen on the 13th of March for Grangemouth and ballast, and ran ashore on the rocks at Old Schuylkill near Seacliff in a thick fog and rain. The sea being moderately fine, the crew were able to save all their effects in good condition. Afterwards the sea rose and the vessel broke up all to matchwood on the 19th. Mr. Thomas Dale, farmer, very kindly lent the crew a house until the 20th, when they took their departure for Leith. The society soon had a problem with people subscribing when they were ill or knew they would soon be out of work, paying a minimal contribution and taking maximum benefits. The branch started to crack down on this, which explains this letter of refusal from Thomas Woodrow in the case of widow Mary Kelly and her request for extra payments. Although the North Berwick branch has long gone, the Shipwreck Mariners Society is still in existence, helping sailors and their families. Another similar society, though purely local rather than a branch, was the Friendly Fishermen Society of Cockenzie in Port Seton. Meetings were held in Cockenzie Schoolhouse. Originally formed for the regulation of the dredging of oysters, it worked in much the same way as the Shipwrecked Mariners. It offered its subscribers support in times of need or a pension or paid for funerals of members in close family. The records of the society are held at the John Gray Centre. This one here shows a list of subscribers. Subscriptions and the records of the society would be kept secure in a strongbox which required 2 keys held by different members of the board. At the end of the fishing season in September, there would be a parade and festivities, and funds from the box would be distributed to those in need. This was known as the box meeting. Though many of the boats are long gone, the tradition of the box meeting and the sense of community it fosters is alive and well in Cockenzie and Port Seton today. During our move to the John Gray Centre way back in 2012, we made a number of discoveries in the collections. One very interesting find was this, an 1845 plan drawn up by the Stevenson family of engineers. It is a proposal to build new ferry ports in North Berwick and in Ely in Fife, and to run a ferry. The build at North Berwick would also have included a new harbour. Unfortunately, the scheme never came to pass. As part of their exhibition in 2019, the Coastal Communities Museum in North Berwick commissioned Tom Small to redraw the map. We also hold other items from the Stevenson firm, including this 1811 missive from Robert Stevenson, seeking a brief for the enlargement of North Berwick Harbour, and at the same time disparaging Leith and Berwick-on-Tweed. Interestingly, it appears that the Town Council didn't take him up on his offer at this point, though we know the firm did work on the harbour in later years. The Archives is home to a vast image collection. We're working very hard to digitise and catalogue over 80,000 images of the county. So far, there are over 10,000 available to see on our website. Here are just a few coasts and waters related ones. Hopefully you've enjoyed this wee presentation. It's just a taste of what's available, so check out our website, johngraycentre.org, or get in touch at history@eastlothian.gov.uk.